What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to your Enhancement Talent review for WWE Raw September 16th, 2019. Not gonna lie, I was trying to live stream this for the first time, and I am not great with this OBS technology and everything that comes with the streaming and everything that I should know to be able to do all this stuff. So, could not get it to work, but we'll look into that in the future. But nonetheless, we have a Raw show to review. I am tired. We're going to run through things here. Overall, I thought Raw was pretty good, actually. The ongoing thread of Rollins and the Bray Wyatt feud, definitely thought that was a strong point of the show. There were some other things. There was some baffling segments and an Attitude Era-esque sort of thing in the middle there, among other things throughout this show. Overall, though, I can't say it was a bore of 3 hours. And that is how I measure these Raws at this point, is if it was not a total bore, then I am okay with it. There were some more underlying damaging things with the Cedric Alexander stuff, which we're going to get into, as well as Baron Corbin winning the King of the Ring, which I thought that I was going to be okay with, but when it actually happened, I kind of turned a corner on it the other way. We'll get into that, as well as the Firefly Funhouse taking over Monday Night Raw. And we'll get straight into things here. Raw starts off with a Seth Rollins promo. He tries to put over Braun in defeat, talking about how large he is and how powerful he is, and that he earned his respect and yada yada yada. They did a really lame thing where As Seth recapped the things that happened on last night's show, that they were showing pictures of it on the Titantron. Which, if that is not the most overproduced, glossy sort of presentation, then I don't know what is. Bray Wyatt appears in the Firefly Funhouse. He and Seth go back and forth for a second. Rambling Rabbit comes in, warning Seth to run. Seth calls Bray a sick dude, which Bray cuts him off, saying, "No need for name-calling, and everyone's made mistakes, including Seth, and that friends forgive." But he says, he never forgets. He being the Fiend, of course. Bray implies that the Fiend may have something for him tonight. He deadpans with the serious look into the camera for several seconds before laughing maniacally and saying, "See you in hell," once again. Yeah, it was weird the way that this went with the Funhouse being interactive with someone actually in the ring. So I'm not sure how I feel about that. I always liked the way they were doing it as a standalone thing. But now is when we're getting into the more hokey side of this character. And we saw it here as, after this, the Raw graphics as they're going through the card on commentary for the rest of the night. They are upside down. As I'm watching this on my phone, I thought it auto-flipped and tried to flip it back, but then it was still upside down. So, that kind of tripped me up a bit. But if the aura of the Fiend is that we are turning Raw graphics upside down, then that is, as Dean Ambrose would say, it is hokey shit. So, not a big fan of that sort of direction, but they did more with it at the end of the show, which we'll get into when we get to the end of the show. But yeah, I don't know. It was just weird seeing Bray interact in that way, which I guess, I mean, that's the only way to really do it. I mean, you can't really have the Firefly Funhouse Bray in a live setting, I don't think. I don't think it would work. So I get that. But the logistics of it from a normal eye, just the idea of Seth standing in the ring, cutting a promo to Bray, who is in a cartoon universe where there are laugh tracks and other sound effects, is definitely very different. I will say that about it. It is very different. Whether that is good different or not, I don't know. I didn't have a huge issue with it, but it was definitely a change from what we are used to. After this, Braun Strowman has a pissed-off interview. He says the next people that go to the ring are going to get these hands. And Charlie Caruso was trying to interview him, thinking that he would not be here, apparently. And so, of course, the next people that come to the ring are the two tag team champions, the SmackDown and the Raw tag team champions, the Revival and Rudolph, Ziggler and Rude. And they were supposed to have some sort of fucking tag team summit or state of the tag team address, whatever they want to call it. All these goofy names they give for promos. So, Braun comes out and he kills them all. Kills them all dead. 1-on-4, just takes them all out. So, imagine booking Braun to not be good enough to be the Universal Champion on 6 separate occasions. And then, to make up for it, we're just going to feed him the entire tag team division. That's what they did at WrestleMania, when he and Nicholas won the tag team titles, and when Braun entered a tag team battle royal and won it on his own. So, it's like that meme where you push like the panic button, like WWE's panic button, when Braun Strowman loses a big match, is just destroy the tag team division. Kill them all. Who cares? It's just tag teams. Pow. So, that disposed of Ziggler and Rude. Later on, it was announced that Rude versus Seth Rollins would be the main event for the... Or, it wasn't really said it would be the main event for the show, but it ended up being the main event of the show. After this, speaking of killing things, we had the OC of AJ Styles, Gallows, and Anderson versus Cedric Alexander and the Viking Raiders. As Cedric is entering, we have Corey Graves trying to sell us on that Cedric Alexander was within a hair of winning the United States Championship last night. Really? I guess me and Corey Graves were watching 2 different matches, because the match I saw was less than 5 minutes, and saw AJ Styles get a visual pin over Cedric before getting an actual pin over Cedric. So, you know, to each their own. AJ, once again, is going to end up pinning Cedric Alexander here, who looked like an absolute idiot in this match, as he's in the ring with either Gallows or Anderson. He has... I think it might have been Anderson. We'll just say it was Anderson, who is propped in the OC's corner after Cedric probably did like a back elbow to him or something. And so Cedric turns his back to Anderson, who is in the opposing team's corner, and he turns his back to them to showboat. AJ gets the blind tag. Cedric goes back to work on Anderson, but doesn't realize AJ is the legal man because he is clearly a moron. AJ comes in with the phenomenal forearm out of nowhere, pins Cedric clean. AJ goes to beat down on Cedric. The Viking Raiders get involved. They and the OC, Gallows and Anderson, take each other out with Ivar doing a big senton off the top rope to the outside, which somehow there were 3 people there and he still ended up splatting on the floor in between them. That looked like it sucked. And so, off of this, AJ was going to set up for another phenomenal forearm, but Cedric was able to evade it, and he ends up getting AJ on the top rope, going for a Hurricane Rana off the top rope, but AJ catches him into a Styles Clash, which he connects with off of the top. So, to go through the last 24 hours for Cedric Alexander, they featured visually being beaten by AJ, who lifted him up before the 3 count after he hit the Styles Clash on the outside. Then later in that same match, being beaten by AJ in less than 5 minutes. Being beaten down 3 versus 1 after that match. So he took 3 L's in a row right there, but wait, there's more. He gets pinned by AJ again the next night, and beaten down again. This time, without the help of Gallows and Anderson, it was just AJ by himself. They have killed Cedric dead. How you go from what seemed like a push for Cedric to this, and maybe they think that this is going to help Cedric, but I can't imagine how they would think that. This is very disappointing. This match did not need to take place. We already had the conclusion. AJ beat Cedric fairly handily at Clash of Champions. There was no need to pair them together again. And if it ends up being a rematch with Cedric versus AJ again, then I don't know what the hell Cedric did to deserve that match, because he's been beaten decisively by AJ like 3 different times in just 2 matches. So, that is disappointing. It had been said going into this that Paul Heyman was a big fan of Cedric, which I'm sure he still is, but how much influence does Heyman have? We don't know. I mean, there's no way for us to know. We know that he has influence, but as far as who is making what decisions, there's no way for us to know that. I don't know what the intended goal here with the AJ and Cedric stuff is, but if it was to make Cedric out to be a loser, then they have officially accomplished that goal. We had the King of the Ring final, Chad Gable versus Baron Corbin. This started off as a regular Baron Corbin match with the dreaded half Nelson crossface. But once they got into the finale, the final sort of sequence there, it was quite good. The crowd was ready to explode when Gable hooked Baron Corbin into the ankle lock, got him in the grapevine, just ready to explode, waiting for Baron Corbin to tap out. So, of course, Baron Corbin ends up getting the ropes. Chad Gable goes for a tilt-a-whirl sort of move and gets caught into an end of days. And King Corbin reigns supreme. It is what we all feared when this tournament first started. Throughout the tournament, and I'll give credit where it is due, Baron Corbin has had many good matches throughout this tournament. And my problem is not with Baron Corbin, the performer. My problem is not with Baron Corbin at all, in fact. I think he's been tremendous in what he's been given. My problem comes with that Baron Corbin has been pushed to the moon and back many times over. Between retiring Kurt Angle, winning Money in the Bank. You know, he's gotten a lot of big wins, and they pushed him into the Universal title scene with Seth Rollins, and that was a huge flop. So they determined by then that he's not at that level yet. So what do? As soon as he comes back from that, he wins the King of the Ring. And I am sure that Corbin will be able to make this work for him. But Corbin, in my opinion, had already been made. And this would have been a great opportunity to build someone else rather than go back to what we've already seen. This could have been a great showing, a great big tournament victory for Chad Gable. It could have been Cedric Alexander. It could have been Ricochet. It could have been Ali. If you really wanted to do a heel that bad, it could have been Andrade. All of whom could have greatly benefited from having a great showing throughout the tournament and then eventually winning it. All of those guys would have benefited from it more than Baron Corbin. So that is where my issue lies with this. I'm not completely against King Corbin because I'm sure he's going to make it work. He's been very good throughout this tournament, so I won't bash him at all. But I just disagree with the intention behind it. After this is where things got very strange. We are set to have Maria Kanellis gender reveal party. The gender reveal of her child, not herself. Hosted by the Street Profits. They do this thing backstage. Maria reveals that it's a boy. But then she says the father is Ricochet. Mike Kanellis is pissed, as any man would be. Ricochet insists it wasn't him. Mike tells him to go to the ring after slapping him in the face. I guess maybe Maria saw some of those Ricochet videos, and never mind. The Street Profits make some funny jokes about them having a baby on a pole match, and then they say a Maria on a pole match, which one of them says Maria on a pole is what got them into this situation to begin with. That made me laugh. I will give them credit for that. So, Mike comes to the ring, waits on Ricochet, who begrudgingly goes to the ring. He doesn't want to fight Mike, but Mike continues to slap him and yelling at him to fight him. So, Ricochet, of course, fights him, beats him with a recoil, and that's it. Commentary during this match was absolutely dying. And, I don't know what I can really say, because I can't blame them. I don't know how you were supposed to present a serious sports casting feel to something this ridiculous. Renee definitely stole the show, though, when she said that Mike had been beaten by, what'd she say? His own baby's daddy. Yeah, that was hilarious. Other than that, though, they were corpsing the entire time. Matthew will have a lot of work to do with that stuff. And so, in between here, we get a Firefly Funhouse. Thankfully, cut all this stuff off. Bray is hanging up pictures of friends, quote-unquote, he says. All of whom are the ones that he has taken out. Finn Balor, Mick Foley, Kurt Angle, Jerry Lawler. They're all hung up on the wall with an X across their face. Says he plans on making some more friends tonight. Now, after this, unfortunately, we went straight back to this Mike and Maria stuff. Mike is in the ring when Maria comes out and says she will reveal the real father, saying that it, of course, was not Ricochet. And so, Maria reveals Rusev, who has returned. And he no longer has a beard, he has a mustache. Which I'm totally out on. I don't think he looks as good. It doesn't fit him. Me personally. But, I don't know why I'm even commenting on things like this. But, yeah, Rusev comes up. Rusev crush indeed. I don't know how Lana feels about this storyline. Mike says if Rusev is indeed the father at this point, he's okay with it. He just does not want to fight Rusev. Mike tries to get away. Rusev cuts him off. Mike trips over the steps. Rusev gets him in the ring and beats him with the accolade. So, we had the big return of Luke Harper on Clash of Champions. And now tonight, in a 2-night span, we had two guys that we thought might never return to WWE at all. One in Luke Harper, who had the great return, helping Rowan beat Roman. And then Rusev, who came back to be Maria's lover. I'll let that sit. We had these segments with R-Truth and Mayor Glenn Jacobs throughout the night. The mayor of Knox County, that is, because they were in the University of Tennessee. So, Glenn Jacobs is going to end up beating R-Truth for the 24/7 title in the Volunteers football stadium. After R-Truth accidentally ran into a goalpost. Make of that what you will. Cesaro versus Rey Mysterio. For something that was not much more than a filler match, this was quite fun. For whatever reason, Rey Mysterio comes out, and they had hyped it before as Rey Mysterio will be in a match. But Cesaro comes out in sweatpants, jackets, sneakers. No sort of ring gear at all. Like he was surprised that he was going to end up wrestling. So, I don't know what that was all about. Rey ends up winning with a 619, and then he goes for the West Coast pop, but Cesaro tries to reverse it, but Rey reverses his reversal into a Code Red, which finishes off Cesaro. Good stuff. And then we go back to Bray Wyatt, who hangs up a picture of Seth Rollins as his new friend with the X across his face. And then, this was interesting. We had an AOP vignette promo. And we have not seen AOP or heard from AOP, the Authors of Pain, in so long. We finally hear from them here. And they were, in fact, referred to as the Authors of Pain, not just AOP, which is one of the drawbacks they had when they got onto the main roster, is that they were then to be strictly referred to as AOP, and not to be referred to as the Authors of Pain. But this was a really nice promo, because both Akam and Razor were able to just speak in their native language, as we get English subtitles at the bottom. Which is fine when you do that in like a pre-tape promo sort of way. So I dug that. AOP, they say they haven't been in WWE for so long because no one wants to fight them. I mean, that sounds like a bit of a cop-out answer. It's kind of like Nick Saban saying we'll play anyone, but then not scheduling any tough opponents. Just fabricating the truth. this was really well done. It was a really well done vignette to reintroduce AOP. But don't let this distract you from the fact that AOPP was once a thing that happened. But now that we've got the draft coming up soon, it was clearly time for AOP to be reintroduced, so this was nice. We had Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross versus Sasha Banks and Bayley, the women's tag champions versus the SmackDown Women's Champion and Sasha Banks, who could soon be the Raw Women's Champion. This match, Bayley ends up savagely taking out Bliss on the outside when Bliss nor Bayley were either the legal participant in the match. Bayley continues her newfound mean streak by attacking the knee of Alexa Bliss and rendering her useless for the rest of the match, turns it into a 2-on-1. Cross fights back for a while. She had a near fall on Bayley, which Sasha broke up, and Sasha is going to end up beating Cross with a bank statement, the tap-out win. Sasha brings in a chair, but Becky comes down to save the day. Bayley and Sasha have the 2-on-1 advantage, though, as Bayley gets back in the ring. They both have chairs against Becky's one chair. But in comes Charlotte to even the odds, and the baby faces, ? Clear the ring. So I feel like this is affirming the inevitable, that Charlotte is indeed a babyface now. Which I wasn't sure of after Clash of Champions, if she wasn't just playing babyface for that feud, and then we'd go on about our way. But there we are. After this, Sasha would challenge Becky to a rematch at Hell in a Cell in a backstage quick promo, which later in the night, Becky would have her own promo where she accepts Sasha's challenge and raises it by challenging Sasha to a Hell in a Cell match at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. So that was all good. I'm perfectly fine with those two being in the Cell match. I wish that we had a different way of getting to it other than the finish to that last pay-per-view match, but what are you going to do? Their Hell in a Cell match should be very fun. You could definitely tell the story of the Cell locking out Bayley to ensure that it's one-on-one, even though that Bayley didn't get involved in the first match, so I don't know if that really makes sense to that narrative. But either way, I think this is a personal enough sort of feud to warrant the Cell. And, you know, it'll be the second women's Hell in a Cell match, with Sasha being in both of them now. And the first one with Sasha and Charlotte, you know, there was definitely some sloppiness to it. I remember it pretty well with the table spots that went awry. They'll have to get some lighter tables so Sasha can actually go through them. But other than that, like I remember liking the match, even though a lot of other people didn't. There was just some sloppiness to it, which, you know, isn't the end-all be-all. But I think that Sasha and Becky can raise that height that the first match set. So I look forward to that. I think their first match was really good until it got to the crap finish. So hopefully we can get another good match out of this, and hopefully we can get a clean winner. Because don't forget, there was a Hell in a Cell match last year that ended in a no contest. Never forget that. That Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns just laid on the ground for the end of eternity. Lacey Evans beats Dana Brooke with a sharpshooter, continuing this Lacey Evans and Natalya feud. Whatever. I mean, I don't really have much more to say than that. Lacey won one match, Natty won the other, if I remember correctly. So, I guess we're setting up for the rubber match. Maybe they can be in a Hell in a Cell. And then we get to the main event. It is Bobbington, Reuter versus Seth Rollins. Paul Heyman in charge for 1 week, and Bobby Roode is in the main event. And that was the report by Brian Satin, is where I saw it. That Vince McMahon, Triple H, Kevin Dunn, all out, all not backstage for the show, and that Paul Heyman was the man in charge this week. So, 1 week of that, and Bobby Roode's in the main event. So, go figure. Rollins has the match won with the stomp, but Ziggler runs in to break up the pin and get the DQ. Ziggler and Roode begin to beat up on Rollins. God, I'm freaking exhausted. Who should run down but the OC to make it a 5-on-1 beatdown? And who is going to save Rollins here? Well, that would be Kane! It's gotta be Kane! It's gotta be Kane! I forgot to mention Kane lost the 24/7 title back to Truth. I think I neglected to mention that. But Kane, who went from Mayor Kane to Demon Kane, runs in, takes out all 5 guys to make the save. Which, Kane taking out 5 of your best guys in 2019, we'll let that slide. But you know, I'm watching it. Don't think I didn't see that. But it was clear what the intention was when Kane came out, was to set up for The Fiend. Which, after Kane clears the ring, the lights flicker off. The screech blares through the speakers, and out of the darkness comes the Fiend. He appears behind Kane, puts him in a mandible claw, and puts him down. And then Seth Rollins, who is on the ground helpless, but the Fiend does not attack him. He instead just crawls towards him and laughs. And it was a great visual, for one. And you'll see it in the thumbnail and in this video. But after that, because there was still a minute left in the show, for the next minute, we just got a reverb over and over of like the Firefly Funhouse music, along with the graphic going upside down and doing all sorts of these effects. So, the Fiend's powers are that he is in charge of production. And maybe that's why Kevin Dunn was away. Maybe Bray Wyatt was in charge of production this week, and that's why the Firefly Funhouse took over. But, to be serious, I'm curious what people think on this, because this is no question overly hokey, in my opinion. But is it one of those things that is hokey that we're willing to overlook? Like, Matt Hardy's Broken Universe was way overly hokey. But we overlooked it because we loved it. But that was in a different way than this is. Because Matt Hardy's Broken Universe was presented in jest, and it was, made to be laughed at. But the Bray Wyatt stuff is meant to be serious. And he has the horror sort of background with the mask and all that. And the great character work. Like, he's doing such fantastic stuff with the 2 different characters and how they blend together, and everything he's done has been fantastic. But then they add in these little things, and I just feel like it's too much. I feel like they might have gone a bit over the top here. as far as, the graphics flipping upside down earlier, and just the, nobody buys that. And, there's, you could say that the Firefly Funhouse, as it is hokey enough. And then the stuff with the lights and then appearing, it's already borderline. But once you add in this, I feel like it just goes too far. And that's not to say that I hated it or I didn't like anything from this, because I thought the stuff they built with The Fiend and Rollins was very good. I just feel like they went a bit too over the top. But, I'd like to hear what anyone else thinks, if maybe they didn't mind it as much, sound off in the comments. But that's all I got for this show. It was a fine show overall, just a lot of things that I didn't care for with the Cedric Alexander stuff, the overdoing of the Fiend's graphics and all that, the production of it. There were a few things. The Maria and Mike Kanellis stuff was straight out of the Attitude Era, but I don't feel like, looking back, that I gave it enough credit, because I was genuinely laughing my ass off watching that, so I will give them credit for that. But other than that, just a decent show, I thought. I've got nothing else to say. My voice is going. I am ready for bed. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, or don't, whatever. I'm sure no one's watching at this point anyway, but until tomorrow night on SmackDown, we will be back. Good night.